Welcome to Treated Table. I'm your host, Sarah Gollibart-Gorman. Today we're making maple spice apple butter with golden delicious apples from Shenandoah Valley Orchards. We are in BMC Bakes, Harrisonburg's gluten-free bakery. Our apple butter will be a part of a beautiful fall charcuterie board. Let's get started. I love these gift boxes because they come with 10 pounds of fruit. It's the perfect amount for this recipe. You'll have enough for the apple butter and a few left over for fresh eating. You could send someone this box of apples and the apple butter recipe so they could make their own apple butter at home. So our first step is going to be to core the apples and slice them. So I have this handy tool that does that for us, and we're not going to peel the apples. Many recipes call for that, but we're going to save ourselves the work because the apple peel actually contains a large amount of fiber, vitamins, and flavor. So we're just gonna skip that out and leave the peels on. So I love this apple core and slicer because it just makes the process so much easier, and you get these great uniform apple shapes. You're just gonna toss them right into the crock pot. This recipe calls for about 16 cups of apples, which comes out to about 12 apples, but really you can just fill your crock pot to, the max. Before you're baking with a golden delicious apple, take a bite and taste the flavor and see how sweet it is, because that will impact how much sugar you can put in the recipe. So you can really customize it so it can be as sweet or not sweet as you'd like. Another thing about golden delicious apples is that they are super mild, sweet, juicy, and crisp. And the sweetness of the apple is important, especially in this recipe. If you're worried about the peel leaving a weird texture in the finished apple butter, don't worry about that. As the apples cook, the peel softens, and then we'll use an immersion blender or a tabletop blender to blend everything till it's super smooth and there are no chunks or bits of peel. All right, so next we're gonna create our spice mix that's going to make this maple spiced apple butter. Apple butter is well suited for a softer, sweeter apple, so you want to avoid tart apples like Pink Lady or Granny Smith. If you have a few tart apples lying around, it's okay. You can still blend those in with the milder, sweeter apples and kind of make a blend. You just don't want to have all apple butter made with Granny Smith or Pink Lady. Okay, so we have our apples ready, and now time for our spice mix. So we're gonna use a ½ cup of brown sugar, and we're also gonna use a ½ cup of the maple syrup. That's gonna lend a lovely mapley flavor to our apple butter. So we're gonna add a tablespoon of ground cinnamon to this mixture here. We're gonna do a ¼ teaspoon of cardamom, a ¼ teaspoon of salt, a ¼ teaspoon of ground cloves. We're gonna save the vanilla extract for the end of the recipe. If we add it too much at the beginning, 10 hours of cooking is really going to break down that flavor, so we're gonna add it towards the end where it still has that vanilla punch. All right, so all of our spices and sweet things are in our bowl. I'm just gonna use this whisk to kind of break up those chunks of brown sugar, because brown sugar can be quite chunky, because we don't want any chunks going into the apple butter. And just mix everything up until it's nice and smooth and fully blended. Now that everything's all blended, we're going to use a spatula and scrape everything into the bowl with our apples. Then we're just going to blend everything in the crock pot until all of the apples are pretty evenly coated in our spice and sugar and maple mixture. We're gonna set our crock pot to 10 hours on low. So once that's done, you can set it aside and go about your day until the apples are ready for blending. So our apple butter is ready for blending. We're just gonna remove the lid here and use the immersion blender on low just to break down all those apples into our nice smooth apple butter. We're gonna spoon a little bit of this apple butter into this bowl for our fall charcuterie board. This would be a great thing to bring to a party, to have out on the table when friends come over. It's just gonna be a beautiful fall spread. So apple butter also makes a great gift for friends, neighbors, teachers, anybody special in your life who you wanna just give this beautiful sweet treat that just says fall. Now that our apple butter is ready to be the centerpiece, let's put together our charcuterie board. Whenever I'm making a charcuterie board, I want to use the cheese as the anchors. So of course our apple butter is our centerpiece right here, but I have 3 different types of cheeses, our Brie, our blue cheese, and our hard cheese that are going to just create some grounding as we kind of display everything else around those cheeses. So around the cheeses are going to go fruit. We have beautiful red pear, a golden delicious apple from SVO, and then some red grapes. Remember, this is a fall charcuterie board, so we want those beautiful fall flavors to shine. And you'll notice we use this when we cut up the apples for apple butter, and they're pretty thick. These are a great size for snacking or for our recipe, but for the board we want something more delicate. So I'm gonna cut these into about 1/4 inch slices, so they're more thin and better if you want to dip, layer with some cheese, etc. So I'm just going to put them in little groups of 3, kind of like this little fan, and just place them around the board. So with a garden or a charcuterie board, our eye loves to see repetition. So we like to have these different little moments of salami and apples and crackers around the board. So also that anybody from any angle around the board can grab a little bit of everything. Time to assemble the perfect bite. We're gonna start with a cracker, then a little piece of salami, a golden delicious apple, of course. I'm gonna go with the Brie cheese, that's one of my favorites, as my next layer. And then a dollop of our maple spiced apple butter on top. Wow. All right, let's give it a try. I love all the textures in the charcuterie board. The fresh golden delicious apple paired with the apple butter is just super delicious. The crunchy cracker, the savoriness of the salami, and the creaminess of the cheese, all together it's just, it's so delicious and so fall. I can't wait for you to try this recipe, and stay tuned for what we're making next with Shenandoah Valley Orchards.